turn announcers out on the course, set to call the action. We'll handle turns 1 and 2 here from the booth, but turns 3 have been awful tricky, and turn 4, one of the best passing spots on the racetrack. It's all on First Street, and we've got veteran turn announcer Jake Query on board to cover that action.
It technically is a drive north up First Street, as you had mentioned, Nick. As a matter of fact, Al Lang Stadium would be to the right of the drivers as they scream their way up, but Pioneer Park looms off to their right. That is the right-handed turn. That is turn number 4. As you had mentioned, it is about a 5.5 block stretch city street-wise in order to set up for that turn. So plenty of time to make yourself wide if you feel you can overtake. It's a very overcast day. I am 12 stories up here, and I am just outside of our friends at Squaremouth Travel Insurance. They always let me sit on their balcony here. It is much appreciated, and it gives me a view as the field comes down below me. When they work their way around Pioneer Park, if they were to look straight ahead, they see the marina. Let's call it not planes, trains, and automobiles, but rather planes, boats, and automobiles. There are airplanes here for the airport. There are boats in the marina. There are race cars on the track. Once they work their way around Pioneer Park, they then come into the view of Dave First.
I tell you, Jake, this is one of the more picturesque drives that the Indy Light Series will see all season long. A palm tree line drive heading south along Bayshore Drive. It's a 1,300-foot stretch after they leave turn 9, then a slight kink to the left, followed by a 680-foot stretch going up through the gears before getting hard on the brakes and downshifting to second gear, making a 90-degree left-hander through Albert Whitted Park, renamed Dan Weldon Way back in 2012. The Mahaffey Theater and the Dolly Museum, the driver's right, million-dollar yachts to driver's left. It's become an iconic scene here at St. Petersburg, and we're ready to see it all, see it how it plays out here in turn 10, Nick.
I've got goosebumps, Anders Crone. We're ready to go racing here at St. Pete. This is an exciting time of year as those 8 drivers will make their way through that tight hairpin of turns 13 and 14. Alignment looks pretty darn good. Pato O'Ward and Colton Herta, the 2 Andretti teammates, they'll drive this field to the green flag in the air, and we're racing to kick off the 2018 season. Good jump for Pato O'Ward as he'll take the lead. Santi Urrutia got a good jump from 3rd as there's locking up behind him. A little contact between Victor Franzoni and Colton Herta. Herta's going to be the big loser, Jake Query, but it's Pato O'Ward, the leader out of turn 3.
O'Ward's lead is about 4 car lengths, as a matter of fact. Santi Urrutia is just behind him. They work their way now down through the gearbox. Herta tries to make up some ground, manages to do so, but nonetheless still well behind the leader as they already sail now around Pioneer Park.
Boy, a big loser we mentioned was Colton Herta, who went from 2nd to about 5th on this opening lap, but here comes Pato O'Ward onto Bayshore as he pops into the view of Dave First for the first time.
Pato has extended that lead. I'm going to call it a good 5, maybe 6 car lengths as he makes his way through turn 10. Then it's the 5 of Urrutia. Then Victor Franzoni in the number 23 machine cleanly through turn 10 here at St. Pete.
Anders, a good start for Pato O'Ward, but boy, a lot of ping-ponging around for Colton Herta, who has started 2nd in this race.
Yeah, exactly, but I think actually what Colton Herta showed just there is that he's grown a lot over the last year. I think that if this was last year, he would have tried to stuff it in there and potentially been out of the race already, so he's grown a lot. He made the mature decision of better to back out now and then try and regain the spots later, so wise choice there for Colton Herta.
And he's not messing around because he is all over the back of that number 3 machine of Shelby Blackstock, who got a little sideways exiting turn 1. Here comes Colton Herta, Jake, looking for 4th.
Colton Herta now tries to go to the inside. Whoa, he really had to lock him up on Blackstock. Got a little bit overzealous. Now here's the thing. They've got just about an 8 car length gap back before you get to that 1, 2, 3.
Colton Herta stalking the 3 of Shelby Blackstock. A couple car lengths behind him. Dalton Kellett's got his hands full of Neil Alberico, but that good battle for 4th races out of turn number 9.
I'd say as tough as it is to make up any ground, these starts and restarts really become important. Pato O'Ward now 7 car lengths. He's got the lead on Colton Herta, trying to make up that spot, though, trying to get around Shelby Blackstock.
Again, a tough start, Tony DeZino, for Colton Herta, but this second-generation driver, we're expecting big things from him here in 2018.
I think so, Nick. He's in a good mindset heading into this year, and as Anders was just touching on, the maturity is there that wasn't there last year. He had a lot of incidents. He kind of had a roller coaster start of the season. He's in a good place where he knows that this is a year to advance into 2019. The team's all there, and he kind of is moving into a team leader role in a sense within the Andretti organization.
It's Award, Urrutia, Franzoni. Then you've got Blackstock and Herta battling for fourth, Jake.
Herta this time is going to try to go to the outside of Blackstock. Can't make the move. He is literally, though, right in the tire tracks. But you've got to wonder if Colton Herta, by locking him up last time by, didn't perhaps flat spot just a little bit. Those Cooper tires might cause him grip late in this run. Leaders coming to you, Dave.
Pato O'Ward still maintaining that lead over Santi Urrutia, and now a little pressure from Victor Franzoni. Call it 2-car lengths between those two. Colton Herta still trying to make up some ground on Shelby Blackstock.
Anders, this is what we wanted to see. Smaller field, sure, but we're still seeing some good battles with a lot of cars running nose to tail.
I'll tell you what, the guy that's going to be thanking his lucky stars at the moment is Santi Urrutia. He's had a trying weekend, to say the least, but he's running right now in second, and for him, I think he's going to be super happy with that. So I wouldn't be surprised if he just sits back the remainder of this race and just collects the points. We see a big move down the inside for Colton Herta.
Herta makes a move to the inside. He'll grab that fourth spot behind the good battle for sixth as Dalton Kellett and Shelby Blackstock nearly made contact. Jake, now that Herta's completed that pass, it looks like he'll set sail.
And Dalton Kellett, pretty active run for him right now, is the meat of a Team Pelfrey sandwich. Shelby Blackstock just in front of him. Colton Herta is trying to get Blackstock well in his rearview mirror. Herta has about a 3-car length advantage.
The leaders will now make their way out of turn number 9. Dave, first they pop into your view. A good start for Pato O'Ward as it looks like he's distanced himself a little bit from second, third.
Yeah, just thinking the same thing. A nice start for O'Ward as he continues to maintain that lead. And now Colton Herta, as you guys mentioned, that last pass, getting around Shelby Blackstock. Now he's got his sights set on Victor Franzoni.
So it is Pato O'Ward, Santi Urrutia, and Victor Franzoni. Those three kind of in their own area code to start this race with about a 4-second lead, Anders. But what a good pass by Colton Herta getting around Shelby Blackstock in one.
It really was a good pass, but I tell you what I'm really liking right now from Pato O'Ward is the line he's taking in turn 13, 14. He carries a ton of speed into the corner, really diamonds it off and gives some straight hands and amazing traction onto the front straight. So that means even if Santi Urrutia were to pick up the pace right now and be right on the bumper of Pato O'Ward, I think Pato would still have such a good run off the final corner that Santi wouldn't be able to do anything. So I think Pato can now control the pace of the race, and then just if Santi gets a little too close, he can just control that by exiting the corner, the final corner that way. So beautifully done.
Running order here at St. Petersburg. It's Pato O'Ward, Santi Urrutia, Victor Franzoni, your front three. Colton Herta moves back into the fourth spot. Shelby Blackstock runs in fifth. Dalton Kellett has his hands full right now running in the sixth spot as he's trying to hold off Neil Alberico, who runs in seventh. Then you've got Ryan Norman in the eighth position. Well, we want to welcome in our third member of the pit reporting crew down trackside here at St. Petersburg, Rob Howden. In terms of track conditions, it's been an overcast, cool day, something we're really not used to here in sunny and beautiful Florida.
Yeah, we had gorgeous sunshine yesterday, Nick Yeoman, but again today the cloud cover has come over the racetrack, as Jake Berry had said from the very beginning. And indeed as well, the temperature, not where we were expecting it to be. We were thinking maybe mid-70s today, only 69 degrees here, ambient temperature at this point. Had some fantastic racing already, and of course unique conditions because not quite as warm as we expected. Both USF 2000 and Pro Mazda already getting their first races of 2018 in the books. A great run for Kate Motorsports and Kyle Kirkwood. They're kind of trying to follow in the footsteps of Oliver Askew to win their 8th straight championship. Kyle Kirkwood has been a teammate of Oliver Askew for many years, was able to score a really solid win to kick off the season. And we just had the debut of the Tatis PM18 in the Pro Mazda category, and man, did it ever put on a show. Some tremendous racing up front. Parker Thompson had the lead until we had a red flag, or rather a yellow flag, and incident on the track for James Raven. Parker, of course, then always has to defend. If you're the leader on a restart here, Dave at first had mentioned restarts make things tough, and Rinus VK was able to get by for Uncos Racing to be able to grab his first Pro Mazda win. Guys, really good start to the season for the Mazda Road, the Indy presented by Cooper Tires. A couple very deserving winners, but as we all know, the trail all the way to Portland International Raceway on Labor Day just getting underway here at St. Petersburg.
Yeah, it is certainly a long, winding road to crowning a champion not just here in Indy Lights, but in the Pro Mazda and USF 2000 series. Jake, let's take a look at that Team Pelfrey sandwich that you talked about, led by Shelby Blackstock.
Blackstock has Dalton Kellett just behind him, then Neil Alberico. They are very evenly spaced right now. Let's call it 2 car lengths separating them from one another. But again, Dalton Kellett trying to close in. Dave, first we'll watch this. You'll see that yellow machine of Shelby Blackstock. Then just behind it, it's that teal and black of Dalton Kellett.
It's a yellow car followed by a silver-black machine of Dalton Kellett. And then the number 2, another yellow machine of Neil Alberico. Evenly spaced, they make their way down Dan Weldon Way.
Anders, you just sat up in your chair a little bit straighter, watching Dalton Kellett making his way around Pioneer Park.
Well, turn 9 is the corner where he went out of the race last year doing exactly what he just did there. And I was paying attention to his hands a couple of corners prior to that. And I think his initial input on the steering wheel is just a little bit too aggressive, a little bit too digital. So he needs to just feed the wheel into the corner a little bit more than he's doing right now. And that'll smooth out the car a lot for him. But, yeah, you can certainly see the stress level being chased down by the yellow car behind him.
Currently working lap 8 of 35 here at St. Petersburg. How about a report on 4th place running Colton Herta from Ryan Marine?
Yeah, Colton started up on that front row, but had that difficult start, as you guys alluded to in the booth. I went over and checked in with the Andretti Brain Trust to see if young Colton Herta had said anything on the radio, but no, he's been awfully quiet, just keeping his head down and keeping at it, trying to move his way back up to where he started this race in second.
Tony DeZinno from Trackside Online covering motorsports this weekend. Good friend of the Advanced Auto Parts IndyCar Radio Network. You know, Rob Howden talked a little bit about the new car in Pro Mazda. Of course, USF 2000 introduced a new car just a year ago. This Indy Lights chassis is only a couple years old. This is really something that Dan Anderson and Anderson Promotions, they really like pushing this new technology. And I know these drivers love racing these cars.
Yeah, it's great to see all 3 series now kind of in that new generation car where it's been kind of cyclical. We had the Indy Lights car first. We've already seen the results of Indy Lights graduates. If you look at the IndyCar field, how many have already come? There's a lot of transfer between this Indy Lights car, particularly on the brakes, and that goes into IndyCar. That's been key to note this weekend with a lot of runoffs in the 4. Great debut for the USF 17 is proven by the fact that some of their winners were in Pro Mazda. I mean, VK, Parker Thompson, and Rob McGinnis were all in USF 2000 last year. That was your Pro Mazda podium. So you basically got tiers of guys that you know are going to succeed once they develop with their new cars, and they're doing it quickly.
How impressive you've been with some of those Lights graduates here in their rookie debut weekends. Guys like Matthias Lace driving for AJ Foyt Racing, showing some speed this week.
Yeah, it's nice to see that. I mean, both for the Foyt team and for Lace, too, is definitely a surprise addition to the IndyCar grid. I think a lot of us thought Connor Daly would return for a second year, but Matthias probably would have been a championship contender had he stayed in Lights for another season. That being said, the kid's fast. That's not an issue with him. I think we've all joked that Lace should be first, I think was how it looked.
Boy, we just got a replay, and I think, Anders Crow, for those joining us online, that's the moment that made you pile up a little bit when Dalton Kellett inside.
And it may not look so dramatic outside the car, but in the car, let me tell you, that thing, you're chasing it all the way down to the wall, and it's a horrible feeling that because turn 9, you're basically in a cambered corner that then leads to an off-cambered ground in the road, and so as soon as the rear breaks loose, you're chasing it and just hoping and praying that you don't hit the barrier, and yeah, he did a good job to keep it out.
Well, it was a story we teased at the top of the show, and really disappointing for this young man from Wisconsin, Rob Howden. Aaron Tielitz was set to start from the pole. Interested to find out exactly what happened in qualifying to keep him on the sidelines for this race.
Well, it's the fickle side of motorsports for sure. Here's a guy that comes out of the box with a pole position, just feeling like the season was right there in front of him. Another win potentially coming at St. Petersburg. Aaron Tielitz, for you, now you've got to reset your mind, of course. And we're told you're trying to get a car, or getting a car from Carlin. You'll be back in the car again tomorrow to salvage some points. You just got to be big for the rest of the season. That's really got to be, I think, your mindset, does it not?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously, we were really fast here, and we were fast this morning going for another pole position, and obviously that just didn't work out for us, and that's street course racing sometimes. I just feel bad for all the guys at Bilardi that worked so hard to have that car so awesome for me here, and then to not be out there running right now, it hurts quite a bit.
I know as a young American driver, you've been able to work your way up through the ranks by actually finding your own money. You don't come from a family that's got money. You need to dig in and just buy another race car. You have to work hard to find that money. You've done that over the years. This is kind of going to be a time when you're going to have to even work harder to find backers who want to make sure that you're on the grid.
Yeah, it's going to be even harder now because obviously cars are expensive and we literally don't have one right now. So I'll be working hard to try to find that money from the backers that I have and finding some new ones as the season goes along here to hopefully be on the grid for the rest of the season.
Well, you're definitely what we want to see. You've got so much talent. You're a great young American driver. Now let's wrap this up. What is the mindset going into tomorrow? You're going to be in a car that you've never driven before. You're not even going to be able to practice it. They're going to put the setup on that you want, but you've never driven that car. You've got your custom seat, so it feels good. What are your thoughts going to be in the opening couple of laps?
I mean, it's the same when you're driving any race car. You just want to get the most out of it. So that's what I'm going to do. Obviously not overdo it. We're out there to finish tomorrow and to have a good run. I don't know where they'll let me start, if I get to keep my third place starting position or not. But we're just going to come away as many points as we can. I just, as soon as the visor goes down, you're just back to business. So
it's gut check time, isn't it? Just never quit on your career, never quit on the weekend either.
Absolutely.
Okay, good luck. Nick Yeoman, this is the guy that we want to make sure stays on the grid, because Aaron Telitz, obviously last year, so impressive, so good through Pro Mazda. He definitely had his eyes set on the Verizon Indy car, so there's a major setback for this young driver who now lives in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Let's go back out of the course to Jake Query.
This race now has split into two different quartets. The second, which is the 5, 6, 7, 8 combo, is turning out to be pretty good. You've got Shelby Blackstock, then Dalton Kellett. Then just behind them, Neil Alberico and Ryan Norman. Ryan Norman was really loose last time by, but is really now starting to charge to try to close in, Nick, on the back of the field there for that 7th spot. Norman, it looked like the car got away from him. Now all of a sudden he's giving Neil Alberico everything he wants.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Dave, first you saw down there in turn 10, Ryan Norman starting to get a little racy there entering that corner.
Yeah, he took a peek to the inside as they maneuvered through turn 9, and then that 90-degree left-hander in turn 10. Took a peek to the inside of Neil Alberico, but thought better of it that time by, but very likely sizing things up for perhaps a move later on in this race.
This again, Jake, a tremendous battle, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th.
Battle right now works its way. You can hear them below me into turn number 4. It's Blackstock with, again, Kellett just behind him. Alberico now has not let in any way, shape, or form Kellett get away from him. It looked like for a second he might get checked out. That's not the case. Maybe that's because Ryan Norman was pushing so hard trying to get that 7th spot. That all 4 of those cars now coming to Dave.
Another quick observation. Colton Herta is now all over the back of Victor Franzoni. As Kellett now to the inside, may have lost a spot, but somehow does not. He actually hit the red and white curbing to driver's left, moved on and continued on here, but also keep an eye on Herta. Man, I'm telling you what, he is moving up.
Yeah, Herta's running down Franzoni, not close enough to take a look, but Anders, Dalton Kellett all but wrecked that car in turn 10.
How do you not spin there? How do you not hit the wall doing that? That was incredible as Ryan Norman's all over the back of Neil Alberico, but I mean, he was 45 degrees sideways in that thing, and somehow the thing corrected itself over the apex curving. I mean, that was astonishing. But now Dalton Kellett's got to get his head down, because I think what might be happening to Shelby Blackstock as we see the fight for second heating up here is that Shelby Blackstock might be feeling the fatigue come in, because he's been out of a car for 187 days is what I heard the other day. And I don't care how hard you work out in the gym, getting back in a race car for the very first time, regardless, you're going to be sore, you're going to be fatigued. So I think Dalton Kellett can really, really take advantage of that. And Colton Herta, look at him.
Yeah, Colton Herta moving left, moving right as they set up for turns 13 and 14. This is where you've got to get that good run if you want to make a pass. This is a good battle for third. Victor Franzoni, the Pro Mazda champion, snaking his way down the front straightaway from driver's left, now moving to the right. Colton Herta's got a good run. A late braking move. He'll duck to the inside. The rear end of Herta's car steps out. They'll go side by side as Franzoni, he'll pull the over move to get that spot back at the exit of turn number 2. Jake Query, here they come out of 3.
Franzoni now with about a 6-car length advantage. Colton Herta this time a little later through the gearbox into turn number 4, but in doing so, that car swings around. Franzoni still Herta not able to close that move through Pioneer Park.
Boy, what a battle there, Anders, as Colton Herta's going to have to gather it back up. That got awful tight down in turn number 1.
And all I keep thinking are two things. A, this is exactly what he tried to do on Neil Alberico last year, and he managed to do it eventually. But 2, Colton Herta learned from your mistakes last year. By doing this, by then spinning the tires, exiting turn 1 like that, you're going to wear out your rear tires, and that can be detrimental to your results. So he's got to just take it a little bit easier here and maybe have a slightly better shot at completing 100% pass rather than this 50-50 stuff.
And Tony DeZeno, I mean, you've been coming to St. Pete for years. That pass down in turn one, we've seen guys mess it up and complete passes for years. It's really one of the signature turning spots in all of Indy Lights.
That's overkill corner, Nick. It's a question of how late can you go in and how much can it stick. And for Victor, this is his Indy Lights debut. He's the only rookie in the field because Pato ran 2 race weekends here last year. So for Victor to snooker Colton Herta, a guy who's already attempted that move with the over-under, that's a very impressive piece of racecraft for the defending Pro Mazda champion.
Up front, no problems for Pato O'Ward as he's got a 2.7 second lead over Santi Urrutia. Then a couple seconds back, actually a good 7 seconds back to third place running Victor Franzoni. Tony, let's talk a little bit about the story of the reigning Pro Mazda champion, Victor Franzoni. Just the fact that he's even competing in Indy Lights is pretty amazing.
Yeah, and we flash back to this race weekend last year. Victor didn't have a ride. He was expected to go into USF 2000, and then a gentleman driver who's raced prototypes, Jeff Green, comes out of nowhere and says, hey, I've tested a Pro Mazda car. I want to run it. So Ricardo Juncos wasn't planning to run last year. They put together a 2-car Pro Mazda program out of nowhere. It gets done race week. Victor's on the podium in his first 2 races, and suddenly it sets up the crescendo of him versus Anthony Martin for the title, which was a year-long battle. And it's a shame that Anthony's not here, by the way. There's a couple people that, this is what happens with the Mazda Advancement Scholarship. You either win it or you might go home. And so in Victor's case, this is a rags to riches. The guy slept on shops, floors, has been sweeping. He will do anything he can, and now not only that, but he's having to play defense because Colton's catching him back up.
Yeah, it's a tremendous story, but day first, third place running Victor Franzoni absolutely has his hands full. Colton Herta has closed within a couple car lengths as they exit Pioneer Park.
Clearly, Colton's reeled him back in after that mistake or that push in turn number 1. The thing about turn 10, to me anyway, Victor Franzoni is having a little bit of issue maneuvering through turn 10, whereas Colton Herta seems much more smooth through this section and is perhaps making up a 10th or 2 each time around.
Rob Houghton, how about Victor Franzoni and his liking of street course racing?
Yeah, the thing is, you talk to some of these drivers, some of them guys love it, some of them hate it. They don't like the walls. Victor Franzoni loves it. He gets super wiggly coming down into turn number 1, almost a tank slapper. He's going to have to hold off Herta now. He got deep on the brakes there. But you get a guy like Franzoni. He's won here before in a USF 2000 car. He won 2 years ago on the streets of Toronto for Arms Up Motorsports. He had a couple of podiums last year as well. He really likes these courses because here's the guy that can hang that car out. He likes a car that's a bit loose. He's good with it. He's great here at the street course. It's not surprising able to hold off right now a driver with a full season of Indy Lights behind him.
Boy, he is tremendously loose as the rear ends of that number 23 Soul Red Mazda as the scholarship winner, sliding all over the place day first as Franzoni tries to hold off Colton Herta.
Colton Herta with a second and a first here in the streets of St. Pete just a year ago. He's not going to settle for anything less than a podium move. Continues to creep up on Victor Franzoni.
Anders, this is really good stuff here in the mid portion of this race.
Yeah, it's brilliant. And Victor Franzoni, I can tell, is just becoming a bit too impatient on the power in the middle of the corners. He's still applying throttle with a lot of steering input, and what that results in is the occasional snap oversteer. Now, that's fine for a lap or two, but he doesn't want to do that consistently because that can definitely lead to too much and wearing out the rear tires.
Boy, Herta takes a look, and now he will complete the pass. Franzoni back out on the throttle trying to run down Herta, but a great pass in turn 1, Jake.
I thought he was going to make the pass last time by entering 4. Herta took a really good look at it and decided to be patient. It paid off. So Colton Herta now put him in 3rd, Franzoni in 4th. Then you wait a while before you get to that 5th place machine. That's Shelby Blackstock. Dalton Kellett just behind him, and then Neil Alberico.
Yeah, some of that battling further back looks like it's settled down, and it kind of happened for a good timing, Anders, because it gave us a chance to focus in on this great battle for 3rd. As now we've seen Colton Herta, after he completed that pass, he's putting a couple car lengths pretty easily on Franzoni.
Yeah, he has indeed, and it's all just in his driving style. I think he's driving a bit more energy efficiently, and what I mean by that is he's not using his hands as aggressively as Victor Franzoni is, and it's a little bit easier for these Cooper tires to really grip into the track. So you'll notice if you see the exit of the corners for Victor Franzoni, there's a lot of corrections being made, whereas Colton Herta makes one steering input, then he holds that until he's able to smoothly unwind his hands, and that's good not just for one corner, but that's really good for the longevity of the tires. And again, I keep coming back to he learned so much last year, because I think last year he would have made some far more erratic moves than he's done so far.
Working lap 20 of 35 here in the season opening race on the streets of St. Petersburg. This is the Indy Lights Series presented by Cooper Tires on the Advanced Auto Parts IndyCar Radio Network. My name's Nick Yeoman. You're hearing Dave First and Jake Query out on the course. You've got Joel Sebastianelli, Ryan Marine, and Rob Howden pit side. Tony DeZino and Anders Krohn join me in the booth. Tony, of course, it's good to have you back here at the racetrack. It's been a busy off-season for you. Get us up to speed with what you've been up to and some of the changes that you've had during the off-season.
Yeah, it's not just drivers, teams, engineers, and strategists moving shirts over the off-season. Couple options just kind of developed where I had an opportunity within the IMSA Sports Car Series, so that's my primary deal. But my colleagues and friends, Patrick Steffen and Steve Wittich from Trackside Online, whose compendium site is now TSO Ladder, presented by Cooper Tires. They've been happy and nice enough for not scared off by my typing to run for a few races. So I'll be on for selected events this year, and Indy Lights, IndyCar, and all the rest of them. So happy to be here.
We're super excited to have Steve Wittich, who will be joining us for tomorrow's race too. You talked about the Sports Car Series. Pato O'Ward, that's a familiar name. A young man getting an opportunity for a full season with Andretti Autosport, a guy that sports car fans that paid attention last year know awful well. For
Pato, this is actually an excellent opportunity for him because every year he's not had a full year to plan for. This year he actually has that. He's had preseason testing. And he's been in the Mazda Road to Indy previously. It's been a one-shot weekend deal or two-shot weekend deal. The Pelfrey deal and Pro Mazda grew into a full season deal after he won here. And last year he was on the podium here in Indy Lights, but his full season deal fell apart after Barber. He wasn't able to complete it. So he promptly won 7 races in the IMSA Championship with James French, who made a one-off Indy Lights start a couple years ago at Road America. So that racecraft, that opportunity to grow with the Performance Tech team, that's a really good group, locally based here in Florida. I think he's a lot stronger for having gone through that experience coming back in. And you're seeing the results right out of the gate with 3.6 seconds in hand as we head on to lap 22.
And Anders, I hear from car owners and veteran drivers all the time. They say the more seat time, the better. It doesn't matter if it's an Indy Lights car, a stock car, a sports car. It doesn't matter. The more seat time you get, the better it is, especially for Pato O'Ward, who's just 18 years old.
And the driver that comes to mind is Simon Pagenaud. Simon Pagenaud would not be the driver that he is today without the extensive experience in sports cars that he's had. And I think Pato O'Ward can say the same. And I was there on-site firsthand engineering Pato O'Ward actually on his run to second in the Pro Mazda Championship in 2016. And I think the only difference between him and Aaron Telitz that year was that Aaron Telitz had 2 to 3 years more of mental experience on his side, so when the going got tough, he really buckled down and made it happen, whereas Pato was a little bit more frazzled. But I think now Pato's in a completely different mindset. He's got that sports car experience behind him, and there, obviously, it's not just outright speed, but if you make a mistake in a sports car, you'll be out of the paddock. You'll be banned before you know it, because basically putting the car at risk is the number one no-no in that paddock. So I think just having that diversity is going to help him a lot, and also in the driving of the Indy Lights car, which we mentioned earlier on the Indy Lights on the IndyCar practice rather. Oh, we have a spin in turn 1.
We got a problem in turn number 1. It was a late move for Neil Alberico trying to get to the inside of Dalton Kellett. Those two made contact. Kellett got the worst of it as Alberico continued on, and now that number 28 machine, that K-Line Mazda for Dalton Kellett, is stopped right in the middle of turn number 1. That's a tight portion of the racetrack, Anders. We saw him trying to go side by side, and now Kellett trying to get that car restarted. But boy, a tough situation for those two drivers.
Yeah, not easy at all. And yeah, it's been a trying weekend so far for Dalton Kellett, and not really the season prep that he's wanted. He actually showed a lot of speed last year on the podium at a couple of oval races, and also showed some tremendous speed at select road course events and street course events. So I know he wanted to show stronger, and yeah, this weekend just hasn't been the one for him.
So now Dalton Kellett gets that car refired, and he's going to do the smart thing to move over and let the leader, Pato O'Ward, slide by. And you're getting a good look at the replay for the first time, Anders, of contact, again, by Alberico for Team Pelfrey in that yellow car and Dalton Kellett.
And I'm wondering if that could potentially be a drive-through penalty for Neil Alberico, because while he had the inside line, he did then just hit the inside curb and understeered into the side of Dalton Kellett. So, yeah, that was definitely not Dalton's fault. So it'd be interesting to see what Tony Cotton decides to do.
And now Kellett going to move over. Let Santi Urrutia go. Urrutia's had a quiet day. He's just kind of, Tony, been stuck there in second place. I mean, Pato O'Ward's had such a dominating run, but certainly want to give some love for Santi Urrutia. He's kind of had an up and down weekend. I think to come away with a second place finish, so all things considered here in race number 1, may end up being a pretty good success for him.
I think he'd love a quiet second place. If there's one thing Santi Urrutia has struggled with, and Anders has touched on this over the course of the weekend, there's always one or two really bad weekends that just throws him off course, whether it was Barber, whether it was here one of the races last year. It's going to be a championship where consistency is going to get you results. So if you get some seconds, some thirds, some fourths, on days when you don't have maybe the winning car, that's going to be what keeps you in the mind. He's a third-year driver now in the championship. So quiet days do not suck when it comes to championship points perspective.
And to that point, Tony, if you look at the Mazda Road to Indy, historically, the championship in every category has always been won by the driver, not with the most amount of wins, but with the most amount of top fives. So it really is that consistency that matters. And Santi Urrutia put that together so well in 2016 or 2015 when he came into Pro Mazda. Didn't know any of the tracks, so his only option was, I have to just progress in every single session and get better and better. And he just took those 5th place finishes, the 6th place finishes, the 4th place finishes, and took those. And then when he was the quickest, he would take the win. But in the last couple of seasons, I think we've seen too much overall aggression from him, in that if the win isn't there to be taken, he still tries to go for it, but then something bad happens. He hits someone or he makes a mistake or what have you. So I think this is really the year where he needs to just take it a step back and know, am I in a position to win the race? Okay, go win the race. But am I not in a position to win the race? I'm going to take whatever position I'm in.
But make no mistake about it, those are the type of drivers that owners love, right? Because Santi Urrutia, it's like, yeah, he can work on consistency, but there is no doubt everyone in the paddock sees a lot of talent in that young man.
Oh, absolutely, and I think hands down over the last 2 seasons he's been the quickest driver without question, but he's one of those drivers that doesn't have the financial resources to be able to move up to the Prix IndyCar Series without that Mazda development scholarship from the Mazda Road to Indy. So, it's a great testament to what Mazda and the rest of the Road to Indy does with with the advancement scholarships there. But also, it's just a testament to how important the financial side of things are. And I absolutely think today, if you put Santi Urrutia in a Verizon IndyCar Series car, he'd be flying right away, no questions.
Yeah, I think, we just saw, we talked about Matthias Leist and how fast he's been right out of the gate, a guy that really liked to drive a loose race car, getting it sideways, and that's, to me, that fits Santi Urrutia to a T. Pato O'Ward currently dominating here in Indy Lights. That lead is 3.4 seconds over Santi Urrutia as we work lap number 27 of 35 here at St. Pete. Colton Herta runs in the 3rd position. He's a good 14.5 seconds back. Victor Franzoni is 4th. Shelby Blackstock is 5th. Best battle on the racetrack, Jake Query. Been watching it the last few laps. It's been for 6th as Neil Alberico is trying to hold off a flying Ryan Norman charging out of turn 3.
And Neil Alberico's had a busy afternoon already. Ryan Norman kind of quiet. He got squirrely about 10 laps ago or so and appeared to kind of reel in that machine. Now still can't find his way. As a matter of fact, very loud through the gearbox is Ryan Norman exiting turn number 5 into turn number 6. We'll keep an eye on it. Alberico screaming at you, Dave, first. He's got about an 8-car length advantage over Norman.
I tell you, the Pelfrey cars have held up a couple of guys, namely Shelby Blackstock out there. Alberico now trying to hold off Ryan Norman. Norman, of course, with that Journey sponsorship back here in 2018, faithfully trying to make up a spot here this afternoon.
Tony DeZito, I think you and I on social media, on Twitter, I don't know if anybody had more fun with the Journey sponsorship that we saw a year ago with the Journey puns than you and I did.
That was an enjoyable period. I don't want to stop believing that actually happened last year, but it did. So I don't stop believing in him either in his sophomore season. He's a guy that is one of the few that hasn't been at other levels of the Mazda Road to Indy. He only is in Indy Lights, but this is an opportunity for him to show racecraft and increase development. He came on a lot stronger at the tail end of last year, and we'll see if he continues to make improvement. He's been hassling Alberico this whole stint. Alberico's made his car pretty wide for a lot of it. You can tell Ryan's faster and is kind of wanting to get past. Neil's, like you touched on earlier, might not be his race fit given the long layoff.
Anders, for these drivers that make their way up the Mazda Road to Indy ladder, is one of the biggest advantage just the fact that these USF 2000 drivers, Pro Mazda Indy Lights, get to compete on the exact same racetracks as the Verizon IndyCar Series drivers.
No question at all, and especially as technical as these tracks are. And a lot of them are temporary tracks like this one at the GP at St. Pete, and obviously there's no testing at this track. It's just the race week, and that's it. And Neil Alberico, he's been to this track since 2012, actually, when he came here to do USF 2000. So he has so much experience here, and he'll know every nook and cranny of this place. But I got to tell you, I'm pretty impressed with Ryan Norman, and I was during the course of last year alluding to, or taking further what Tony was saying. He was, in my opinion, the most improved driver during the course of last year. I mean, he started basically solidly at the back of the field and quickly developed into someone that was actually a podium contender by the end of the season. So I know he's hoping to run a bit higher than he has been currently today, but I still think if he keeps that same progression in mind that he had last year, I think he'll have a good season ahead.
Yeah, I think if I remember back to last year here at St. Pete, he started maybe 10, 15 car lengths behind the field just because he was, as you mentioned, getting up to speed, learning the course. And now we're watching it firsthand. Second year coming back to St. Petersburg, he feels a little bit more comfortable, this young driver from Ohio, to now be able to pressure some drivers and race with them.
And it's not an easy thing either. All he did before he came into Indy Lights was SCCA club racing.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about he's racing against guys that have been on the Mazda Road to Indy here for so many years and have developed their craft on the Mazda Road to Indy, which we all know is super competitive. But yeah, Ryan came straight out of SCCA racing, and the quality of drivers to compete against there isn't as high. So for him, he really jumped straight into it, and I think he's done a tremendous job.
6 laps to go here on the streets of St. Petersburg. The lead for Patricio Pato Award is 5.9 seconds over Santi Urrutia. Let's go back to pit lane and check in once again with Rob Houghton.
Nick Yeoman standing by with Chief Operating Officer of Andretti Autosport, Rob Edwards. Rob, you've had Patricio kind of in your care for about 4 months. In those 4 months, what are your thoughts on this young driver?
Well, I mean, right from the very first test we did with him, right? I mean, his temperament, his approach, everything is just fantastic, right? And I think the way he meshed with the team very quickly, right? It wasn't like he was the new guy. I think he actually helped bring the rest of the guys together with him and around him. And yeah, as I say, his approach both in and out of the car has just been first class.
Any surprise at all that he's been so good here this weekend?
Not really. I mean, we watched the guys in the other formula and so on, and he was obviously quick. I think he just needed that chance, right, where he had a full-season deal that he could really focus on, and so we're happy we're able to provide that for him.
Little issue for Neil Alberico on the racetrack, overshooting turn number 1. One more question for you. There's obviously a formula for champions. There's confidence, there's skill, there's talent. He seems to have a pretty good mix of all of them. There's no lack of confidence there. He's got the bravado. He has a really good personality as well.
He has a great personality. I think the thing is, like you say, he's got that confidence, but it doesn't come across as aloof or he's a real team player. That's sort of what I would say is an inward confidence that he doesn't feel he needs to push other people away. He includes everyone in what's going on, and confident within himself, and a great member of the team.
Rob, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good input there from Rod Edwards on Patricio Award. Let's go back up to Anders Crone to look at that incident with Neil Alberico.
Yeah, exactly. That was some scary stuff there for Neil Alberico. Finally caved under pressure from Ryan Norman and just went way too deep on the brakes into turn 1. He was on the dusty part of the racetrack and just locked him up, and yeah, from there it's almost impossible to get the car stopped. I mean, and then he touches the paint as well on the track, and that just doesn't help things either. But yeah, I tell you what, he was pretty quick with grabbing that reverse gear and managing to get back out. But yeah, Ryan Norman finally able to apply enough pressure to make Neil cave.
That was a pretty savvy move by Norman. I mean, he was right in the way, right in the draft on the inside, all the way heading down to turn 1. And I can imagine Alberico's probably watching those rear view mirrors, and then when Norman pops to the outside, as a driver, then do you forget about that braking point? That's how that happens?
Well, yeah, I was going to say, you're so focused in the rear view mirrors that suddenly you realize, oh my goodness, I'm 50 feet deeper than I've been all weekend so far, and I'm offline. So yeah, that wouldn't have helped his cause there.
So a nice job by Ryan Norman to get around Neil Alberico, putting the pressure on to move in, and looks like solidly hold on to that 6th position as Alberico had to come to a stop and has now fallen 20 seconds behind Norman. The leader again, Pato Award, making his way around Pioneer Park. Dave, first, he's going to pop into your view here with just 3 laps to go. That young driver from Mexico has not put a wheel wrong all day long.
It's a remarkable job here in the season opening event here in the streets of St. Pete. I mean, he makes his way south down Bay Shore Drive, and he doesn't even see the second place, Santi Urrutia, in his rear view mirror. Awesome drive today for the young man from Mexico. in Pato O'Ward.
Boy, it has been a dominating performance for Pato O'Ward as he comes back out of the front straightaway, where he will see just 2 laps to go. Santi Urrutia giving chase, but it's going to have to take a Herculean effort, probably more importantly, a mistake from Pato O'Ward for this one to go any differently. Pato O'Ward, Jake Query in that bright green and white car, making his way in your view.
He gets just a little bit loose under the Firestone bridge, as if that speed that he has exiting turn number 3 is just going to carry him along First Street. It does exactly that. He works his way very comfortably, that 4-5 combo around Pioneer Park. Comfortable advantage. It would have to be a mistake that would allow Santi Urrutia to close in on the leader who has dominated today. That's Pato O'Ward, who comes today.
Santi Urrutia, you can tell he's been trying to push his way through that little brake smoke. That time through turn 10 for Pato O'Ward. Now we see the number 5 of Santi Urrutia closing in just a little bit, but obviously Nick Yeoman's going to run out of laps.
Yep, he certainly is through turns 13 and 14. Pato O'Ward comes onto the front straightaway. This airport runway, massive airport runway here at Albert Whitted Airport in St. Petersburg. He'll see the white flag. One more trip around this 14-turn street course here in St. Petersburg, Florida. Pato O'Ward poised to pick up his first career Indy Lights win, Jake Query, as he makes that right-hander out of turn 3.
Hard to believe that he is still about 6 weeks shy of entering the final year of his teens, because Pato O'Ward has been a man today on this track in St. Petersburg, working his way around Pioneer Park. There's a slight hint of precipitation in the air, but the sun has been shining all day on Pato O'Ward underneath the overcast skies. Dave, first help bring him home here in St. Pete.
Yep, the Mahaffey Theater will approach his driver's right. I tell you what, that beautiful place has been hosting world-class events since 1965. Hey, comedian Dennis Miller will perform there at the end of the month, but for now, all the laughs belong to Patricio O'Ward. What a season-opening drive. No better way to start 2018.
It's been a few years since Andretti Autosport has won an Indy Lights title. Well, their campaign to do it in 2018 begins right here as Patricio Pato O'Ward goes to victory lane, 2 hands up in the air across the start-finish line as the young driver from Monterrey, Mexico will take that number 27 Mazda to victory lane here on the streets of St. Petersburg, Florida. Anders Krohn, what a dominating run for a truly bright star in this series.
Yeah, that was an unbelievable drive, and I was paying attention to his driving inputs on the final couple of laps there and just looking at how methodical every single one of his inputs were, never going over the edge of what the tire will enable him to do, and yet that was such a nicely put together run. And now I think the biggest thing for him is to soak up the 5 to 6 minutes of enjoyment out of this and then completely reset for the race tomorrow, because if you linger on this, if you get complacent, conditions are going to be completely different tomorrow. Things are going to change, so you just need to completely reset as if this day never happened. But certainly as it pertains to today, man, what a drive that was. And Santi Urrutia as well. I mean, fair play to the guy. Difficult weekend so far, but to bring home second, that's pretty good for him.
Some thumbs up and some waves from the fans up in the grandstands for Pato O'Ward, who picks up the win in race number 1. Tony DeZena, you've been following Pato O'Ward's career for a few years now. This could be scary for what this young man could do to the Indy Lights Championship this year.
Yeah, Nick, the growth that Pato's shown over 3 years, I mean, we barely heard of him when he was a rookie in Pro Mazda 3 years ago. He was Sandy's teammate that year, came in, I think, possibly a race or two late, but he grew so much in that Pro Mazda year when he just lost the title to Aaron Telitz. Now, Telitz doesn't get to start the race. He gets the pole. He gets the first win. Who knows where we go from here?
While not exactly a rookie to the Indy Lights Championship presented by Cooper Tires, Pato O'Ward today becomes a first-time winner here in the streets of St. Petersburg Grand Prix. Pato, congratulations. How good does this feel to score the win in the first round of the season?
It feels really good to start on the right foot for the season. It's a very long championship. I started really well in Mazda, and some bad circumstances didn't lead me to win the championship, but I'm looking forward to changing that this year. I'm going to be working hard to get more wins, more poles, to get as many points as I can, so I'm the one at the top in the championship standing at the end of the year. But as I said, it's a long championship. We just started, but we started on the right foot, and I'm really, really excited to get my first win.
Now, if we could shortly, let's just talk about the circumstances that led to you starting on the pole position for today's race. Aaron Telitz obviously wrecking out in qualifying for race 2 earlier this morning. That hands you over the pole position for this race, which he did hold until his car was damaged too badly to continue. How big of a role did that play in your mindset going into today's race, knowing you wouldn't have to worry about Aaron?
I honestly would have liked, obviously, Aaron to race with us. I'm really happy that he's okay. I know he had a very big shunt, so I'm happy he's okay, and hopefully he can race with us tomorrow. I was looking forward to competing with him just like we did in 2016. We always race each other really hard, and it was always, a lot of fun to compete and to give a nice show to all the fans and all the people watching. But things happen, and even if it maybe wasn't your fault, or maybe you had a little mistake, this track isn't really forgiving. So if you make a little mistake, you're gonna hit the wall and you're gonna go straight out. So I'm just happy he's okay, and hopefully he can join us tomorrow.
Positive words from Pato O'Ward about racing with his rival Aaron Telitz. Pato O'Ward, winner of the Mazda Indy Lights Grand Prix of St. Pete, presented by Cooper Tires. Congrats, Pato.
Thank you very much.